Hey there, are you ready to create a monogram or a split monogram letter? If you hear roosters and chickens in the background, I'm sorry, it's the neighbors. I've closed windows and everything, but I can still hear them, so if you can hear them, I'm sorry. They get a little irritating. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is open up Cricut Design Space, which if you're on your laptop, it would be the desktop app, and then we're going to start a new project. And once you have your new project open, you're going to select text and just type the letter that you want. So in this case, we're going to do M. Okay. Then kind of resize it. It doesn't really matter what size you make it at this point. It's just kind of big enough for you to be working with. You'll actually resize it for your project later. And then you can go ahead and choose your font. If you do all, it includes any of the Cricut fonts that you actually have to pay for. So you see right here it says $4.99 for this 3 birds on parade or any of these ones that it's showing right now. If you click System, these are the fonts that are actually on your desktop or like on your computer. And so if you've downloaded a free font from DaFont or you've gotten a font bundle from the font bundles or whatever that website is that has the really good deals on fonts, or even Creative Market, these are where you'll find those fonts, okay? And you can search for the font that you want if you know the name of it. And then if you click on Cricut, it shows you all the ones that are available through Cricut that you have to purchase, okay? And it's possible that you want to purchase the one that you find in Cricut at $4.99. They're really comparable, or actually sometimes cheaper than the ones that you're going to find on other font sites. I'm going to go to System just because those are the ones that I already have, and I'm going to find something that I like for this M that has, I want it to be a serif, so I want it to have like the lines and stuff at the bottom. That one is not a serif. Serif's like when it has those little edges at the top and bottom. This one looks like it might be a good one. Too fat on the side. There we go. Okay, so this one's called Capitals. I'm not sure where I got it. But it's going to be a decent font for a monogram. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is actually split this. I'm going to change the color just so we can kind of see what we're doing. We want to split this M and bring it down so that we can have room to put our text or whatever we want in the center of it. So the first thing we're going to do is click over here on Shapes, and we want a rectangle or a square. They always come onto your page in a perfect square at like 3.1, and then the ratio is locked. So if I click and drag anywhere on this square, it's going to stay square. I want to turn it into a rectangle, so I'm going to unlock the ratio or the proportions up here, okay? And then I can click and drag and make it long and narrow. So kind of make it about as narrow as you want the line to be on for your division. And actually we're going to make it just a little bit longer. Let's make it 0.25 and just see. There we go. Because we're actually going to be dividing this space in half, okay? So figure out where you want to divide the M and cut it apart, okay? Probably right about there. And I'm gonna, and then you're gonna want some overhang. I don't know if you want it to go a little bit past the serif here on the edges. So this one looks like it's about right at, but my measurements are going to be different than yours depending on how you resized your M, okay? So the only thing you need to worry about is making it 1/4 of an inch tall at this point. Your width is up to you and the font that you chose and how far you want it to hang out off your M. I'm going to click over here in the corner and drag across the two so that they're both selected. And then I'm going to click Align, and I want to align center horizontally, okay? So that just means that now the center of this rectangle is perfectly in line with the center of the M. So I have equal space hanging out each side, okay? And now I'm going to select the two again and weld them, okay? Oh, hold on, before we do that, make a duplicate of this. So copy this box. So you can either click on it and let's see, yep, you can go to Edit and Copy, or you can just use your keyboard shortcut, which is Command C on a Mac or Control C on a PC. So Command C and then Command V or Control V to duplicate it. Okay, and now I'm going to highlight the two and I'm going to weld them together. Okay, now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it dead center in this, this first rectangle. Okay, and they're not quite lining up on the side, so what I'm going to do is highlight the two and do align left, and it just scooches them so that they're perfectly lined up. Okay, and now see how my rectangle is behind my M and I can't really access it to do anything? I could click on this to select it. You can also move it to the front or move your M to the back. So there's two ways to do that. I can click on this M and then do arrange and send to back, which moves it to the back, and now my rectangle's back on the front where it belongs. Or I can click and drag over here on the layers and just rearrange where I want them to be. Okay, so right now I want this to be in the front, and I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to unlock the ratio so that I can drag it one way without having to drag it the other, or change the, like, I can change the height and not the width. I'm going to click on this green arrow set. Let's see. And then I just want to drag it down past the edge of that M. It doesn't matter where, just somewhere past it. Okay. And then hopefully you're about center inside this. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is select the two objects and hit slice. Okay. So what this did was it cut out the shape of the M. It cut out half of this rectangle. So I have some parts that I have to delete now, okay? And so I'm going to drag this down out of the way and delete it and just kind of start pulling pieces apart. And when I do that, I'm going to be left with this bottom part of the M that I can pull down to give my spacing, right? Make sure that they're aligned to the left. Give yourself as much room as will look decent, and that you've got room to type something in the center. Okay, so now let's do our text tool, and we're going to type, let's do mommy. And I'm still on that capitals font, and I want to go find the glitter font. Okay, so I love glitter, and I'm going to link to this to show you how to use it. It'll be in the lessons. Okay, so I'm going to drag this so it's kind of the size I want, but you'll notice that I've got spacing here that I don't want in between my letters, and I want them to actually be touching because they're a script font and I want it to all be connected for cursive. So what I'm going to do is ungroup. So over here, when my text layer is selected, I can click this ungroup button, and it breaks it up into the M, the O, the M, M, Y. Okay, and now I can grab letters and just scooch them over so they're touching. And once I get them where I want them, then I'll weld them together and I can kind of resize and move them around again. So, okay, and the way that I scooch those instead of dragging them, because I wanted them to stay, I didn't want them to go up my screen or down my screen or on my canvas. I wanted them to move left or right. So I just used the arrow buttons on my keyboard and just bumped them each time to move them over as far as I needed. You could also change the position up here with this X and Y by just kind of bumping this over. Okay, and it gets a little bit more precise that way if you need it to. But this worked. Okay, so now I'm going to select all these letters, and instead of dragging across, and you could drag across and select, you might bump your M, and if that's the case, you can just hit Shift to unselect it or to reselect it. Actually, I would just select it, not Illustrator. Okay, so I'm just going to drag across and select my mommy, or I can click on each of these letters while I'm holding Shift key down, and it'll select the whole thing. And I'm going to weld them together. I could group them, but the problem with that is when I go to make this, it's going to put the M in one spot, the O in another spot. Like they're not actually stuck together. I want them to be stuck together. And I don't want this M to be cut separately from the Y. So I'm going to weld them. And then I can rearrange this just a little just to see how it looks. Obviously it'll be a little different. It's going to cut separately from my M later, but I can get a good visual and mock-up of how it's going to look. So there's my M and mommy. Okay, let's do it again with a different letter. So I'm just going to slide this out of the way. And we're going to take the text tool and let's do D. And now we're on that I love glitter font, which we don't want right now. So let's go back. Let's just do the capitals again and see how it works with the letter D. That looks pretty good too. Okay, so I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to change the color so that we can see it better. Let's do orange. Okay, and then I'm going to select the shapes tool and the square. I'm going to change the proportion or unlock the ratio and proportion so that I can make this longer, and I want it to be about 25, which you could either drag and get, or you can just type up here in the box to get. And it looks like width-wise I'm pretty good again. Maybe about right there to slice. Okay, so I'm going to select the two and hit align and center horizontally. And then I'm going to keep them selected. I clicked off of them, and I'm going to weld them together. But before I do that, I want to make a copy of this so it's the exact same size. So copy, you can either Command C or Control C, or you can do this duplicate key over here. Once this is highlighted, the layer is highlighted, hit this duplicate button and it'll make your second. And then I'm just going to move that out of the way. Click on that and weld those together. And then I'm going to bring this box up here. I need to move it to the front, so I'm going to drag it up. I'm going to align to the left. And then I'm just going to use my arrow key till I'm about center in that box. It went up a little high, so I'm just going to click and drag it down where I want it. Right there is about good. Then I'm going to undo the lock up here and drag this straight down. And it's kind of hard to drag straight down without like messing up your width. So just do your best, or you could just type up here. Actually, let's do that just to experiment. So I'm going to undo. Okay, so it's lined up, and then I'm going to unlock my ratio. I want this one. Unlock my ratio, and for the height, I don't want 1/4 now. I'm just going to make it like 5 1/4. Okay, so it automatically takes this down, and I don't have to worry about accidentally scooching left or right. I know I'm perfectly aligned on the left. This is bigger than the D now, so I can highlight the two of them, and I'm going to slice, and then I'm just going to start clicking and deleting the parts that I don't want. And then I can grab this, and I'm just going to use my arrow key, keep it lined up. I might have done that a little high in that D. I'm not really liking that. It wasn't middle, so I'm just going to hit my undo key until we get back to where we merged those two together. Okay, and I'm going to bring this down and try it again. So highlight the two, weld, put this on, bring it to the front, line up on the left, oops, horizontally works too, and then change the ratio of this one to the 5, highlight, slice, and then delete some pieces. There we go, that's better. Okay, and I just was clicking and dragging, so I'm going to align again just to make sure I'm good on the left there. Okay, and now I can do my text tool. And if I were really on it and I had been prepared, I would have just copied and made Daddy right away, but it doesn't take us long to find the other font. So type Daddy and then glitter. And move this up here, and I'm going to ungroup and scooch my letters closer. And that one, I'm gonna, yeah, there's a zoom right here. I always forget to zoom, but you can totally zoom in on your project if it's not, if you're having a hard time seeing your lines or where you're at. And it's just this button down here in the corner. And then I'm just gonna use my arrows to scooch as close as I can, and then move it closer. The other thing you can do is align them when you're all done, but the problem with that is the center of this D is different now than the center of this Y, and so it's going to make it all cattywampus. So basically just do your best to kind of visualize where they go, or use the arrows if you're worried about going up and down. Okay. I'm not overly worried about it just because it's a script font. Okay, so I'm going to select those and I'm going to weld them together. And you'll notice that I get this solid in these D's here. It's okay. It's still going to cut out the center the way that it's supposed to. And I'll show you, let's go to make it just so you can see it. Actually, it's probably going to be easier if we did it with the contour tool. See, it's showing you right here that it does have, oh, this one didn't. It took them out. Well, there you go. That's weird. Let's undo that weld. I'm not sure why it's doing that. That's okay. There's a workaround. I'm kind of glad that happened. Okay, let's do this. So we're going to make it larger, and then we're going to weld it. Oh, so it just didn't like that it was as small as it was. It wasn't recognizing that space in that font. So making it larger took the hole out. The other thing I was going to say is if we hadn't been able to get it to work that way, I'm going to unweld it just to show you. So we'll go back to here, and then I'm going to select again. I'm wondering if we can copy the inside cut here. I don't think we can. Okay, so note to self, if when you weld your font and it kind of fills in an area, the best thing to do is just to make that font a little bit larger so that Cricut Design Space can kind of read that path a little bit more. Okay, it's reading a mathematical path in there, and what happened was it didn't see this blank space here. So we want it to be able to read the entire path. And before I weld these together, I want to move this one over just a tiny bit, because I don't like the way it was inside. Like the A was kind of encroaching on the inside of the bubble there. There we go. Okay. And this can come over just a little so it's more in line with the A, a little smoother. Okay. So I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to weld them together. And it's still doing it to me, so I'm going to make them a little bit larger. Weld. Well, why is it doing it now and it didn't do it before? This is why I love Illustrator so much more. Because you don't, like it reads the paths the way it's supposed to. Okay, so I zoomed back out a little bit, and I'm going to just select this font and make it big. I'm just going to make it huge. And then I'm going to weld it. And I just keep getting different filled in holes. That's just weird. Okay, I'm going to undo again. Bring the, oops. And bring it down here. I'm just going to kind of slide down on my canvas and make it really big so that I can see what I'm doing and kind of rearrange things again. The only thing I can think is part of that A is kind of going into the circle here, and it's not, so then it wants to fill that space. I'm not sure why. There we go. Okay, so I just made it really, really big, and then I welded it, and now I can go back up into my workspace and make this a little bit smaller so that it fits. That's probably good right in there. And then just bring it down a little. Okay, you can make it so it overlaps your monogram, or you can make it so it fits inside the space there on your monogram. There you go. That's how you make a split level or a split letter monogram. Super quick in Design Space, no Cricut access or anything needed. You can just make your own. If you do decide that you want to buy fonts, though, they're fairly affordable, and I will actually link to the 2 fonts that I used. I'm not sure where I got the capital, but the I Love Glitter is in default, and so I'll link to that for you, and then yeah, you can go ahead and start playing and experimenting. Good luck.